Welcome to Backwoods University. Hopefully you guys can hear me over the wind. It's a little windy and snowing today. Today's class is going to be on snowshoe basics. Now some of you who live in areas that don't get snow or get very little snow probably have heard of snowshoes but don't really know much about them, and we're going to cover some of that today, just the basics on snowshoes. The purpose of a snowshoe is to make travel in deep snow in the wintertime easier. And what you're actually doing is you're floating on top of the snow. Without the snowshoes, you sink down quite a bit in the snow, deep snow, and you get tired very quickly. It's tough to travel. So what a snowshoe does is, by having a greater surface than your boot would have, it actually spreads out your weight some, and you're walking more on top of the snow. Now, depending on the type of snow, you may go down just a little bit, or you might still go down quite a bit. Now, if you got a real light powdery snow and you don't have a trail packed in, you're going to go down quite a bit, but not as much as you would without snowshoes. And if you're in a crusty, frozen type of snow, you might even walk on top. So the purpose of snowshoes is to make your travel in the winter during deep snow easier and less tiring. Shoes come in various styles. Each style has a purpose, and we're going to cover some of those styles and what their pluses are and what some of their minuses are. The different parts of a snowshoe are as followed. There's a binding. This is what attaches the toe of your boot to the snowshoe. There's a toe hole here because you're only attaching the toe. The heel is not attached, so your foot can pivot. There is the frame of a snowshoe. There is what they call the toe of a snowshoe. This particular pair has a bent up toe. You have some styles have what they call a tail. And then, of course, there is the webbing. The webbing is what keeps the snowshoe from sinking down deep in the snow. This particular pair of snowshoes is what they call an Alaskan style. It's a very long shoe. Some of them are even longer than this. It's narrow, it has a tail and an upturned toe, and it makes traveling across open territory, open ground, much easier and quicker than other styles. This pair here is what they call an Ojibwa style, and instead of the traditional rounded toe, it actually has a toe that looks a lot like the tail. And the thought process behind that is, if you're in a brushy area, this will not catch on that brush and will actually make walking through a brushy area easier. This particular pair has a little different style binding than the other pair I showed you, but it still attaches to the toe, but it does have a harness that goes around the back of the boot, but the boot does pivot. Now that's an Ojibwa style. When people think of snowshoes, a lot of times this is the style that they think of. A traditional, I call them a Maine style snowshoe, and this is kind of an all-purpose snowshoe. This one has a very slight upturn to the toe, So the flatter the toe is, the easier walking in hilly terrain is. And snowshoes also come in different sizes for different size people. Here's another snowshoe. This is a much smaller shoe. This shoe might be appropriate for a kid or a woman or somebody of a little less weight than this one. And as you can see, they are both the same shape and design. Not all snowshoes have a tail. Here's a pair of, well, I would call them a bear paw. Some people might call them a green mountain. But there is no tail on these. And what these are good for is they're good for if you're in some tight woods and you're doing a lot of turning around where a longer shoe is a little more cumbersome. These work quite well. This is a pretty cool pair. It's stamped Swenson and Swenson, but it was made in Japan. So I always get a kick out of that one. And it doesn't necessarily have to be traditional wood shoes. Here's a pair of military surplus magnesium frame, aircraft cable webbing, and these things are darn right or close to indestructible. I use these quite a bit. I like them quite a bit. They're not as pretty as the other snowshoes, but they are extremely rugged and they work quite well. This just scratches the surface as far as different styles of snowshoes. There's literally hundreds of variations on snowshoes. But these here give you a little idea about snowshoes and their use and how they work. Now if you're out and about and find some used snowshoes and you think you might want to buy them and use them, take a good look at them. Make sure the frame, there's no cracks or splinters in the frame. Make sure the webbing is all in good shape. The bindings is not a big deal, but make sure that the frame and the webbing is in good shape. Now, when you get your snowshoes, you want to coat them with like a coat of varnish, marine varnish or polyurethane, something like that. And depending on how often you use them, you're probably going to want to do recoat them at least once a year. You'll find a used snowshoe that's in good shape. The frame and the webbing and everything is in great shape, but they're either missing the bindings or the bindings are in bad shape and need to be replaced. On this channel, I put together a video on how to make your own lamp wick bindings, and I'll put a link or whatever in the comments section, but it's on this channel, and you can see it's quite a simple process. You can either use lamp wick or you could use rope in an emergency to make your own bindings. There are literally hundreds of different variations of snowshoes. Each region, each area kind of has developed a snowshoe for their particular conditions. Most will work anywhere. They may not work perfect anywhere, but most style will work just about anywhere, and they're certainly better than no snowshoe at all. So I would encourage each of you to if you get the opportunity, if you live in an area that gets a lot of snow, is to go out and try snowshoeing. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of history behind it. Of course, now they're making modern snowshoes. I don't have any to show you today, but they're the same principle as these older wooden traditional shoes are. So until next time, everybody, until we meet for class again at Backwoods University, everybody take care and thanks for watching.